At first, when I started recording this episode, I went off on this huge tangent about Jumptown 2.0. I don't know. Maybe this will be a double header episode. Who knows? This is actually the raw footage from the previous episode, just with, of course, the audio stripped out of it. There was a comment on the last video, and it said, "Do you feel that?" A comment saying that, they would argue that upgrades to loot represents an equally fundamental change to the game. I disagree. That is an element of what could be a fundamental change, but in order for that to work, you would need auction houses. If the loot that you got was so rare that some items were highly desirable either for the look or performance, and players could sell that to each other on an auction house, that would make running bunkers and derelicts and all this stuff, it would make it so much more lucrative and so much more fun and more exciting that a lot more players would do this. It would have the effect of bringing back the OG Jumptown in a way. And this is where I kind of went off on my tangent the first time I tried to record this. I'm gonna just try to punch it out quickly. The original Jumptown was a masterpiece because it was entirely player inspired. It was just, there were circumstances in the universe that you could take advantage of, and all of a sudden people were logging on as Jumptown clear. People were making high speed runs past Jumptown with their org, and then if they saw nobody there, they would go in with a couple of cargo ships, load up real quick, and then fly back, and then the guy would make another run, and then two other people would come in with their cargo ships, and they would all change places. Some people ran a protection racket around Jumptown. It's like, yeah, we're holding Jumptown, come on in. You give us a mission beacon, throw us X amount of UEC, take as much as you want, you get full protection from us, that sort of stuff. And it was great. But then CIG turned around and structured it and kind of made it an event. Hey guys, log in and play the new Jumptown. And it's kind of like when you were a kid and you and your friends had a saying that you used to use. And it was just like this cool little, turn of a phrase that you guys used to throw around. And then one day, your dad started saying it to you, and you're like, "Oh, Dad, I guess that's over with." It's the same thing when CIG tried to structure Jumptown. And I always felt it was kind of shady because it was an event that we already had, but then CIG was like, "Hey, these guys really like it. Let's turn around, let's polish it and sell it as a feature, or set it up as a patch feature." And it was just, you should have just left it the way it was. It was awesome the way it was. It didn't need to be changed. But it's like, no, but we put our name on it. We say we did this, and it was like, no, you should have just left it. And it should have been left the way it was. But I could see an economic argument because it was unbalancing the economy, but it was driving players to engage with that. And that's what, if you had an auction house and there were certain items that were super rare, like rifles with skulls painted on them, spray paint jobs, and all these kind of rare appearances for already existing weapons, players would probably pay in-game UEC for that, and probably quite a pretty penny if it was rare enough. And so players going in and doing bunker missions, cavern missions, derelicts, bang, they would be receiving these huge rewards, and it would make these things so much more lucrative and so much more fun because it would be a little bit of a lottery. You were going to get some good stuff, but you don't know how great it could be. Being able to sell it back to an NPC is good, but what would be even better is to be able to sell it to other players. And I think that's, when we always hear about, well, there's parts of Quantum that are coming in the next patch. Give me an auction house. That's something that we need to look at. That's something that we need to talk about. Someone who logs in and just says, you know what, I want that Nine Tails armor set, but I don't want to wait, and I don't want to have to wait for that mission to pop up. If anybody's got anything, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, I'll spend a few extra $1,000 to get all that set. Or maybe there's something ultra rare, something ultra cool. That would represent a fundamental change because it would change the way players interact with the game in a huge way, and it would have the equivalent effect of what the original Jumptown was. Back well over a year ago now, there was WoW Classic. Some of you may have participated in that. And they released it in a similar way that they released the original game, just without the login and server issues that they had. Well, not quite as they had when the game originally came out. But one of the things that they repeated was the fact that there were no battlegrounds in the initial version. So if you wanted to gain honor, you had to do it, Terran Mill versus South Shore, all these different points of collision between Horde and Alliance players, and just these armies would just spontaneously arise and collide, and it was great. Move into, the structured battlegrounds that the game would have later, and it lost a lot of its luster. Later on, one of the comments that I think I've made over the years, and I made a few videos detailing this, or there were parts of this that I put in some of my videos, where I was talking about the world PvP during Battle for Azeroth, because Battle for Azeroth initially had me very excited, because I thought, this is going to be a big Horde versus Alliance PvP thing, and it turned out not to be. But there was a world PvP reward that I chased after that was very difficult to get, very time consuming. But all it really involved in terms of structure was go out and kill Alliance players in all these different zones and earn up, it was like 1,000 honor in each of the first zones, so 6 zones. And you had to kill players with certain buffs. There was a whole bunch of crap. But you got this cool mount, and you got this really cool title, the Conqueror of Azeroth. And I always thought that was pretty awesome. But that was the most rewarding part of that whole expansion. To be perfectly honest, that whole expansion, apart from, a couple of the raid fights, was garbuncle. It was trash. But the world PvP was awesome. And I loved that. And it was they basically just gave you the framework and just said, go do your thing. And that's what the original Jumptown was, right? And just, go do your thing. And that's kind of, when you look at something like player loot, yeah, that's cool. That's the framework, or that's a piece of the framework at an auction house, and then just let players do their thing. And that would work the same way the original Jumptown did. The new Jumptown 2.0, Xeno threat, all that stuff, no. I could see myself doing it if there was an actual cool reward behind it, but not really. It doesn't interest me at all. I just use that opportunity. I say, hey, everyone's over here doing this, then I'm going to go over there and do that. And no one's probably going to bug me when I try to erase crime stat or something like that, because they're all going to be too busy chasing each other around. That's what I would use it for, as a distraction. But trying to circle back to the new loot system and not, drift into WoW too much, or the original Jumptown, the new loot system promises to be something really good. If we get to a point where it's not just cosmetic, but it's also performance increases, and you have an auction house already in place, then you might see some potential for some real money-making stuff, right? Because you got to remember, it's PvP. You're losing what you're equipping. A lot of bad things can happen in the game. Who knows? You might even get disconnected once or twice. There's going to be a lot of demand out there for armor sets and guns, and someone might find a particular appearance for their character that they really, really like. But it may not be that easy to get, and so players can make a lot of money out of that. And I think that that's entirely a good thing. And I would love to see that come to the game. So the loot system is a nice touch. It's not unwelcome for, that ball to be moving down the field, but realistically, the bigger thing would be an auction house to kind of tie players together economically in a formal way, in a secure way, or just a trade window would be good. But that there would be a chat, and it would just be endlessly spammed, and you'd be sitting in that chat waiting all day, and just in case someone wants to buy your item. If you have an auction house, you can just post it. You can post it aggressively if you want to get rid of it quick, or you can kind of play the long game and post it for a higher price. But eventually one day you log in, and boom, your stuff is sold, and off you go to the races. That's something that we need in the game. Now, a fair argument could be made that that does not need to be there until we have persistence. But I would actually say this is something that we would need to test and explore before we have persistence. Because we want to have an auction house in the game when we do have persistence that works, that's relevant, that's what players want. So, yeah, loot system changes, good. Auction house would be entirely better. Anyways, that's the show. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.